Well, I guess the spatula is staying. So, who's ready to unleash a new kind of hell in Ranked? Because here it is, as the second half of the Demacian season approaches. We got a whole new PvE drop with a big setup. Because as part of this, without any prior warnings, Riot might have dropped one of the biggest features that might just change the course of Ranked going forward. Personally, I don't believe that will actually happen for various reasons, but the options are there now. Of course, besides that, we did also get a preview for the skins included in the second half of the season. And yes, there is a lot of lore there. Not to mention, there were also some special drops that were data mined. And so, without further ado, let's jump into this very juicy update. Starting with the one thing that is currently the hot topic, and that is, of course, voice comms in League of Legends. That's right, the inevitable finally arrived, and people are already scared of it. Of course, currently, League of Legends is kinda known as one of the most toxic games out there, even though in the recent seasons Riot started fighting back against it pretty well. I mean, if the entire Drew Levin saga would say anything, it's that a lot of people got banned. And honestly, after a lot of the game modes started leaning more towards the casual players, yes, the toxicity actually improved. But are we ready for voice comms? You see, voice comms are the one tool that makes any game toxic. And the more ammunition you give it, the worse it gets. Counter-Strike is kinda the lead example. Although, we have to mention the fact that Riot is actually using voice comms in their other games. And because Riot is actually monitoring those, as in, not that they are listening, but the system knows what you're saying, they are banning people who are abusing them. So far, Riot actually has a good track record. But again, can they handle League of Legends? I believe most people will actually disable it. I mean, for the last at least 5 years, I've been playing without chat at all. And because people were fine climbing ranked without voice chat so far, I think people will continue to avoid it. Also, keep in mind that voice comms have actually been part of League for a very long time now, although you were only able to use it with a pre-made team. That's also likely why this feature dropped out of nowhere. It was technically in the game already, so Riot just lifted the limit, and now things are gonna be wild. I mean, once Reddit got wind of this, of course there are many debates. And people already suggested that this feature should be up only if you have Honor level 5. Which I do believe would work. It's not like Honor level 5 is for free. You do have to grind towards it, but for people who play a lot, that grind is pretty simple. There is a good chance you can get it early in the season. And yes, Riot could make it so that once you hit Honor level 5 once, then you can just keep using it, even if you don't have it the next season. I do think this would be a pretty easy fix. Of course, then you could argue that this is gonna be hurting team play. Well, you can make it so that people can listen to it, they just can't speak. And to make sure that this kind of abusing is avoided, yes, there is already a report for the abusement of the voice comms. So now we'll just have to wait and see just how much this is gonna change ranked. Again, I think people will be fine without it. I don't believe any streamers want to even risk getting banned over a voice comm. And yes, just the thought of voice comms in League spawned quite a few memes already. But for now, this feature is currently available on PvE, and we are still waiting for any kind of an official word from Riot, because they did just quietly drop it. Though, you know what doesn't have a voice chat? My game, which I am currently working on, called Funus. The story-driven, lore-rich rage game which you can wishlist right now. Anyway, I don't know what that was about, so now let's go to the other half of the PvE. So as we mentioned, everything is now circling back to Demacia. And so after we went through the new comic, which is still technically not public, people just found it on PvE, which also did likely tease the next champion, we also found a lot of new collectibles. But what's awesome is that most of these are actually related to the lore, with some exceptions. So let's start with the emotes and icons. Because the PvE is a combination of League of Legends and TFT stuff, you'll notice that among all the Demacian heroes we have here, there is also Renekton and Misfortune, Boba Bear, but all the other ones are related to the season. That's why we have Fiora, Gale, Sona, Garen and Lux. But more importantly, there is the new Prestige Sona, which we'll get into in a moment. But also, there is a random Dragon Guard. Now this emote is very specifically referencing the Dragon Guard from Legends of Runeterra. And of course, it is here because it is starting to tease Shyvana. Yes, in case you haven't noticed, Shyvana is not on PBE yet. We have no idea where she is, and so we can just keep waiting, but we can expect to see her soon. Outside of this, there are also the new icons. Here we have more images related to Demacian lore as well as the new Demacian skins. There is also a Silverwing, there is Demacia Vice. Well, I assume it is still Demacia. And most importantly, there is Pangu Garen. That's a very odd one, right? Is this one related to something else that was also found on PBE later? We'll see later. Anyway, there's also Nar, Aurelian and Shaco, but don't worry, Shaco is not getting lore. It is just an icon you can get for subscribing to the esports channel on Twitch. Besides these, there are also 2 Demacian banners now. These keep getting updated and mixed up, so let's just hope it is settled down. So these are the banners. There are also a bunch of assets for all the loot, which includes orbs and bags and the pass. And speaking of loot, since Aurelian Soul is the one getting the next gacha skin, Riot did already queue up the next Sanctum. And it seems like the Peacemaker High Noon Yone will get a rerun. And since the Aurelian skin is a version of the Porcelain Legendary, all the A tier drops were changed to the Porcelain skins. We all remember those, right? We all remember how they launched. Anyway, alas, it is now time to have a look at the new skins. Which also means it is time to dissect all the lore references in them. Starting with Corrupted Petricite Xerath. Now, of course, by now most of you should know that Petricite is the magic absorbing material that can get corrupted if it absorbs dark magic. Hence why Corrupted Xerath. Now here, just keep in mind that the new champion that was likely teased seems to be a demon hunter that went into a dark forest, meaning there is a good chance that these corrupted petricite skins are teasing the story that might be happening in the dark forest. Not to mention this can also be tied to whatever the darkness was in the cinematic where Sona warded it off, but also it can be related to the dark deer that were in the forest with Yunara. So who knows, maybe these skins are teasing more than we thought. Anyway, you might be able to notice that the body of this skin is specifically teasing one of the Demacian statues. In fact, it is almost 1-to-1 to the one massive statue at the Grand Plaza. Which of course is the symbol referencing the Winged Protector, which is also something that gets confirmed in the bio of this skin. Even the most wondrous works of Duran's masonry may warp if the petricite absorbs too much magic. This statue was raised by Demacians in times past to honor their beloved Winged Protectors. Yet now it crackles with unpredictable arcane energy, a new threat against those it was built to protect. So yes, it is confirmed that this skin is referencing the Winged Protectors, aka Gale and Morgana, and the skin is alive because it is petricite that absorbed a lot of magic. Now, when it comes to the skin in-game, the Q just spreads dark magic, but you can notice the little symbol that's actually very close to the Sentinels of Light. This is possible because now the Sentinels have a lot of links to Demacians. And who knows, if it is all tied to the next champion, could they be a sentinel? Anyway, the W is a really clever reference, because it is a sword that's dropping down, in reference to the Demacian Justice. Yes, it is a corrupted version of the Holy Blade that Gale summons down. Then there is the E, which is a dark magic ball, and the ultimate, which rains down dark magic balls. But that's kinda it, so now moving on to Corrupted Petricite Maokai. You see, just like how Zerath was built out of Petricite, so is this skin a piece of a Petricite building that is also merged with a tree, in reference to the massive Petricite trees in the forest. Now again, notice how the tree specifically is corrupted. Is it a reference to dark magic in the woods where the next champion could be? Likely. In fact, the bio is teasing it too. Though this ancient tree once stood resplendent in some forgotten Petricite grove, the sudden bloom of wild magic has animated its branches and heartwood anew, now it lumbers far and wide, fiercely protecting its enchanted seedlings from the growing Demacian settlements encroaching upon the wildwoods. So yes, technically, the tree in this skin is defending itself from the building, but that's actually what makes me wonder, is this really a setup for the next champion? Anyway, the skin is quite simple. The Q is a wave of dark magic, the W is a wave of dark magic, the seedling explodes in an explosion of dark magic, though there are also some Petricite stony details, and the ultimate are the encroaching dark roots of the trees, just like how it was described in the bio. It is pretty clever, but I'll have to say, in this design, the Petricite building is kinda carrying the skin. Without it, it might have been Darkstar Maokai, but this then takes us to the most important skin of this drop. And that is the Prestige Requiem Sona. Now this is a skin that got originally leaked a while ago because it was in the files of the minigame. And so, first of all, I have to say, this skin looks beautiful. It is likely one of my favorite skins for Sona. And you may notice that in the recall, she is standing in the rain. And you may be wondering, why? Well, in her finest funerary garb, Sona plays a hero's lament. Silent hands give voice to a melody that swells in triumph played forward, and cascades into the bittersweet shadows of pianissimo grief, her tribute to a fallen friend. With this performance, she will tell his tale in the form of a song that will never die, and never be forgotten.
Lady Sona, if I fall today, let your song carry me home.
So yes, this skin is called Requiem, because Sona is playing at the funeral of Xin Zhao. This is very fitting given the fact that both champions are Demacians that originally came from Ionia. And when it comes to the skin itself, as I mentioned, it's kinda insane. The visual effects here are incredible. In fact, there is one thing that is very hard to miss. Look at those! Look at those massive wings that are part of her passive! Why are they so big? I don't know, but now it's gonna be really hard to miss the moment when Sona is about to poke you. I'll be honest, I'm not sure if this skin can ship like that because it is huge. But I do hope it will, because all the VFX are hiding the old animations really well. I mean, let's have a look at the abilities. Her Q sends out blue shards of glass, with the aura being very vibrant. The W changes it to green and it gives a nice stained window around the shielded targets. Her E then changes all the glass into pink shards. And the ultimate combines all the colors into a prismatic wave. When all of these abilities are used together, it actually looks really cool. Although it might be a little bit visually busy. And again, I don't mind because you can't really see Sona's old animations. Lastly, when it comes to the skin, yes, there will be also a mythic variant, which is the red one. But that's pretty much it for skins. But that's not it for what's on PBE, because there were some data mines about Pangu Garen. Yes, there is the icon which we showed previously, but it's only because as Lux is learning about the history of Demacia, it seems like Pangu Garen will also appear in the history. I assume that will be just Lux having fun and telling Diana about the stories of Pangu, and that's how he ends up in the minigame. But yes, Pangu is coming, get ready. And speaking of Pangu and getting ready, well, there is also some news for TFT, and that's simply the fact that TFT will now have its separate patcher. What it means that if you launch the Riot client, you can now install TFT directly from that. You don't have to launch the League of Legends client and then wait for TFT to get downloaded through there. It doesn't mean that TFT will have a separate client, no, it's all integrated pretty well. And I think Riot knows that, that's why they don't want to separate them. But it is simply gonna be less waiting before you can play TFT on PC. But that is it for this PBE. Even though it wasn't that big, the features in this one were... I mean, the voice comms are probably the biggest experiment that Riot could have pulled off. But the experiments are not done yet, because next PBE should be big. Or if not the next one specifically, then one of those after that should be big. Because the next champions should start getting teased somewhere outside of the comic. And, of course, people are also waiting for Shyvana, who did not pop up here just yet. And I wonder if that is because they are making her face more draconic. It worked for Smolder, you can do it again, Riot.